225 or more, we're good to go with the offer that we got.
Well, there's quite a book to it.
Well, they're like that, that's why commercial appraisals are, they're expensive too. And so the last thing, it's not on the agenda, I'll tell you where I am on the, I've distributed a draft of a proposed addendum to the contract with EDC to include the broadband. And, let's go back. We had a meeting with the legal counsel, with Martin Thornburg, Beth, Lauren was in attendance at that meeting, and EDC was present at that meeting. And we discussed, and you've already had some discussion on using first of all, ARPA funds are not being used for broadband. ARPA funds are being used to replace lost revenue. And that part has been done. What you've done is authorizing that to be done. So that's gonna free up monies in the general fund to be used for other purposes. And we've been advised that we can use that for purposes of broadband, additional filtration and so forth. So the revenue replacement money that's coming from the ARPA fund is not the concern. The concern is on the back end of the broadband project, and we're looking into that now. The concern is if we get reimbursed by this broadband company, internet service provider, that is other revenue, and other revenue typically affects your tax rate. And we don't want to wreck the county's tax rate by having money come back in directly to the general fund. And I think that will happen if we do it the way we were thinking about doing it. So I'm gonna put together a question for Beth to submit to AIC, and I'm gonna also talk to Martin Thornburg about this. So what you got in front of you is gonna have to change, because we've got to find a legal way, when I say legal way, to do this in a way that won't cause us budget problems, artificially lower our tax rate, by having money come back to the county. I'm thinking that a couple of different ways that could happen instead of coming back to the county. One of them is, we have a contract with EDC, it's for a 2-year period, I think, is that right? 2-year period. Part of that money could be applied to future, instead of using edit money for EDC, is part of the money that gets allocated to this project that comes back, could be allocated toward future support of the EDC budget, our contract with EDC. So we just changed the term of our contract with EDC. That's one way. And the other way, another way, an additional way, is possible to have EDC in someone support the jail project directly, not coming back to the county to the jail project. We've already talked about that money being used, and we've been advised that possibly up to $2 million could be allocated toward the jail. We may be able to leverage some more than that by doing this. So I just wanted to let you know why you don't have this thing on the broadband in front of you do. So I have been out for a few days. I've put some time in to grandkids. So I've got some emails. I know that EDC's asking about it, and I sent a copy of this draft to Marion just last week when I got back. So I'll be getting in touch with him. So that's where that is. We're trying not to wreck our budget, and also trying to find a way to maybe leverage some more money for support of the jail project.
Well, Jake Adams called me this morning and said that they're working on their part of the broadband contract for us.
Yeah.
And that's probably what you're talking about, they're getting hold.
They
of their
have,
attorney.
they'll be the contractor with the, provider.
Right,
In preparation for this, I kind of, did an internet search of what counties across the United States are doing. A lot of them they're running their own grant programs, like counties granting out to internet service providers, trying to get last mile and all that. Then there are others like us that are using a, economic development organization of some type, and they're usually tax exempt and so forth to actually administer the program. So this is kind of a, so instead of a grant to the EDC, I think the best way to structure it is to put it as an addendum to an amendment to our existing contract with them. Now, EDC hasn't had a chance to review this, and we haven't seen it over there either, so that's what we're working on.
I just say Mr. Adams had asked me about that money a while back, what our thoughts were. I said, we don't have any thoughts on it yet, we're still waiting on answers. But he told me a little bit of his plan was is that if they get all that money back, they're gonna reinvest it back into the broadband to make sure everybody in the county gets the internet.
Correct, but there was a certain stipulation that where does that money go when it's
Right.
paid back to them?
Right.
Whether it comes back to us, really shouldn't go just to EDC.
Well, I think I would be concerned if it comes back to
Right.
directly to Carroll County, that's the way
Right,
that I
now
think.
we're concerned about
Right,
that.
right.
There's always something.
Rod?
I was just gonna, pigtail a little bit on what Steve said. There are Oprah grants available, and the person has to qualify for last mile connectivity through the state. Income levels, et cetera, but there's currently an Oprah program available for last mile connectivity. So some would qualify, some would not. I think obviously because of income differentiations, but, there is an Oprah program available for that last mile connectivity. So even though they may say, or whoever may say, well, we've got, we'll need all of this money for last mile connectivity, there's a separate avenue that can be utilized through a state Oprah program. And I had a question for Ted. I understand completely about you talking concerning, we don't want to upset the budgetary process and mess up our tax rates. If it came back to the county, if it only came back to the county via the general fund? Or if it came back to the county into the ARPA fund, is that considered a separate?
Well, you lose ARPA, it goes back to the ARPA.
That's what they don't look at ARPA.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Okay, that answers that then. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it.
I have something. Okay. Animal control. Okay.
Paul, I've got some estimates for, yeah, and then I don't know the needs, what we really need there. I have talked with the sheriff. The space out of North Carolina, the transfer station, that could be utilized. But I don't know this, I never designed a kennel, so what would it actually take to kennel, but a portable shed. But I believe it should be on concrete, so it would, most of those were concrete, as for wood floors. But you gotta have space inside to separate, maybe dog jail, or whatever.
Dog jail.
And then you gotta have a place to run, so.
Build another jail.
requires some fencing, electricity, and getting water.
Can you repeat what you said at the very beginning?
Well, about the animal control, about the dogs, looking for a place to accommodate that need. There's space out around Carroll Manor, the transfer station, more level up there.
But we got to run utilities to it.
You have to run utilities, have to have water, you have electricity. It have to probably be heated, they need insulated. But just a building would run between, looks like, it's a 12 by 24, about as big as they could be able to transport. Between $7,500 to $2,000.
So it'd be a trailer type thing.
No, it'll be a-
They bring it in on a trailer.
Oh.
It'd be like little farm barns out here.
Yeah.
They just make it with dog runs in it, like either a 4-dog, 5-dog, or 10-dog, whatever it can be. They each got their own little sections they can run outside to do their business and come back in and be out of the weather. Then on the inside, you got like walkways where you can let them in and out. And then you have to feed them and all that stuff. I mean, sheriff would have to have somebody do all
A
that.
building like that would have to be altered quite a bit.
Right, I mean, it's similar, it looks like a.
Size wise, I don't know. If I would say that, I don't know.
And then
Got
we need-
quite a few animals, what sounds like,
Yeah.
on here.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a plywood floor would work with
I
it.
don't think it would
Yeah.
either.
But it's definitely, you gotta wash them out and
Yeah.
sanitize them all the time. Or we just invest some money into that dart and let them handle it after. That way, all we do is just give them $3,000 to fix their trailer and be done with it,
That trailer would
if that trailer would be suitable.
be suitable.
I mean, we got options, I mean, if we do it ourselves, who's gonna take care of them, supply the food and, you know, I mean, we can't do the shots, we still have to take them to the vet. But also, I don't know, if we don't take them to the vet, then they don't need their shots. I think there's a fine line there.
Yeah, it was over, but, so it would be.
Yeah,
As a council member, I understand the law reads that we have to, retain the dog for 3 to 5 days after the dog catcher catches them. So I would, be in favor of personally funding something like that, that the county would own and be able to use for several years to come. It looks like mini barns, if you put one in, but you found out you needed 2, you could call them and order another one and all that to me. And, so, some of the options are you could get a mini barn delivered that has, like 8-foot areas where you could then come in and pour concrete and not use the floor, so, that just, it's not that, hard of a decision in my mind that, the law requires us to do it. My preference would probably be not to try to put, $3,000 into that ARCA trailer because, I just don't know how permanent that would be and, it just seems like to me, it's like this courthouse. I mean, once they build it in 19 whatever, they.
16.
Huh?
16.
1916, I mean, it's a, it's ongoing, long-term, the problem's fixed, a trailer seems a little temporary to me, especially when you don't know.
I think what we need to do is let the sheriff know we're supportive of maybe doing this and see, because he's supposed to be checking with local vets and everybody else.
I think he's already done it, and no local vets will take the dogs.
Well, he's supposed to have another meeting again,
Is he?
yeah,
I talked to him about it too, and he.
because nobody wants to take our animals without a contract,
Well, there's nobody to take our animals, period, what the sheriff.
because we don't have no contract with nobody. We had a place, but we had a mishap, and the vet says you're no longer gonna bring them here because you can't follow my rules.
Okay.
So, and I understand that completely, because, what they did was wrong. But if we get into a contract with them, I think that's what he's working on. We don't know until we talk to him.
Well, I think one thing too is there's quite a bit of money that's supposed to be paid to one of the local vet clinics for shots. Because if you bring the dogs into a vet clinic, by law, they have to give the dogs all their shots and get them up to date. Where if the Carroll County did this, I don't think we don't have to give the dogs all their shots, And I think that's one of the last things I want to see as a councilman is we're in charge of giving these animals all their shots and bringing them up to date and getting them current on their shots. That's a lot of money wasted from our taxpayer dollars. I don't want my tax money to go to that.
So therefore, if we had some sort of a storage unit on our own property, then we wouldn't have to incur a bunch of goofy costs to, give dogs shots.
Well, we'll still be doing money to the vet, cause, after 3 or 4 days, they have to be put down. And that's when I think that dart trailer would come in and say, hey, I'll take these dogs after so many days of holding them here. Cause, they're a non-kill shelter, even if we took them to the vet after so many days, they get put down. But we still have to pay that cost to have a vet put them down.
At least you wouldn't have to give them their shots before you put them down, though, would you?
I don't think they do the shots unless somebody comes and picks them up.
That's not what I understood. I talked to the local vet person, and they said that if it comes on their property, that the shots have to be up to date, because the dogs are in with other dogs. And they're gonna, transfer diseases.
Still, this is the sheriff's kind of issue, because he had
The
animal
sheriff
control.
and animal control will need to be on board and try to claim these
Yeah.
contracts and everything, it's not really up to the council.
I'll try to talk to Toby after the meeting, see where he's at.
Yeah, it seems like we can move forward somehow.
Yeah, we need to get moving forward.
Placing something out in that area.
Right, we got the location, if we put it at the manor, we have to check on our insurance. And maybe some of the seniors that want something to do can go out and help feed or. Sure.
Yeah, with them dogs.
You definitely need to have your shots.
Yeah.
Some dogs are afraid of.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
very few of them.
Those little ones that worry me, the ankle biters.
Ankle biters. That's something we need to be.
Yeah, so we need to get the sheriff going on this.
Well, I would like to see it that we do this in a collective kind of way, as far as we need to, every step of it, keep the council involved, keep the sheriff's office involved, everything, and not us run out ahead of everybody else. We wanna make sure that we're doing this in a team way.
Right. Yeah.
Somebody's gotta lead the charge and get all that done, and, who's that gonna be, the sheriff or
It
you?
should be the
I really
sheriff and
can't be
animal
the council. I mean,
Because that's
it's
who's
gotta be
budget's
the-
coming out.
It's like these costs, it's more than just the building.
Right. Oh, yeah, because you'll have food, you're gonna have utilities.
Yeah, there's a lot of things.
Somebody man up.
Yeah.
Well, they'll be there all the time, but they got daily. People can check them.
There you go, Paul.
There you
Your
go.
rental property out there, 500 north, put up your own kennel.
I'm good, no thanks.
I kinda like the idea of having it like near the trash transfer, because I'm thinking in terms of barking and how much noise some of these animals can make.
Right.
You get one going,
Then we all do.
then I can see that as being a negative to the manor there. Although I can see how there'd be, if I was in the manor, I'd wanna go out and see the dogs and pat them and all that stuff. But, I don't think that tips the scale more than the barking.
Either place.
Is that what you think too?
Yeah, I think either place, I'm sure the transfer station has a humongous, main already to, electricity wouldn't be a problem at the transfer station, but it may not be at the manor either. So I'm open to whatever you guys think on that too. I see your point.
The manor, you can't get the electricity from the manor. Manor runs itself and supports itself. They're not gonna support the animal control.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, there's, I don't know if they're on the city or if they're on their well.
Remodel Carroll Manor, the elevator.
yeah,
Cause I know,
through Packers, yeah.
cause I know there's water out there, cause Christian had to shut down the transfer station Saturday early because they had plumbing issues. We could probably build a pole barn, this is cheap. Just make it so. Yeah. Yep. Nothing's cheap
Put in a
anymore.
whole barn.
Yes, a smaller pole barn.
It doesn't have to be a real tall one.
No, no.
I
There is a bull barn out
10,
there.
12
There's
years
full
ago.
one, but we had a garage years ago.
12 years ago.
Up to-
Well, we need to be keeping up on this.
You wanna take the lead on this?
Well, I think the sheriff will go to the bar.
Right.
But I don't know the needs of the county. It's some direction.
You probably need to get their numbers on how many they pick up a week or a month and go from there.
So, could we ask for the animal control officer to be here at the next meeting and tell us how many animals, how many dogs she's picking up in, we don't do cats. How many dogs she's picking up in a lunchtime average, and, that'd give us some starting point on this.
Does she give the sheriff a report?
I think she does. I would think she would.
Yeah.
So we could ask for a copy of the report.
That'd be okay. Be okay.
Just details.
We need to long-term be looking in terms of putting, hooking Carroll Manor onto this new main that's coming, up there, rather than running it through the Indiana Packers.
Is that where it's at now,
Yeah.
Packers?
That runs across the Packers. I don't know what all the problems are with that, but it sure be nice, I think, to just hook it into this big central main and have that done. And that is something that the redevelopment board was wanting to do, just to be able to hook it all up.
Yeah, when they're putting something in like that, you'd rather oversize it than
Right.
undersize it for the people.
That way you don't have to go back and tear it out and put something new in.
It's not gonna be any cheaper to do it 10 years from now than right now.
So do you want both animal control and the sheriff to meet at the next meeting with the report?
What did you tell them?
Yeah, well, the sheriff needs to come back and tell us what he's found out through the vets. Local vets, out-of-county vets.
Okay.
Cause I don't know, maybe you can get with Purdue and, I mean, they always got animals in there that, they have. Down there, I see them walking them all the time, they always got shade spots on them where they,
Yeah.
Does he have problems?
yeah.
They have no problem.
And that's where the new vets upcoming learn, the practice.
Do they have a new,
They got a
small
new-
animal?
They just built a huge new building, almost $60 million worth.
The last animal I had down there was a dungeon. It was a horrible space to visit through.
Yeah. It's cheaper to take a cow there than it is your family pet.
Okay, is there anything else that we need to look at? Yes,
I went back and looked, and it doesn't say specifically that I need approval for election day, but I would just feel more comfortable if we went ahead and approved my voting locations for election day,
is it okay for us to do that this week? Sure. Okay.
and I brought multiple copies. I learned.
I gave it back to her, yeah. She's got both of her, both of them.
I'll make a motion to approve election day location.
And again, those are the ones that we've used in the past. Nothing has changed.
Did you say? Yes. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. You use good paper. Oh, I got two.
I was gonna say. Buy it when it's on sale, so.
I got a motion and a second to approve, the voting centers, which are Burlington, Delphi, two Delphi, Church and here, Flora, Yowen, and Camden. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Have you already started early voting too, haven't you?
In the courthouse.
In the courthouse? Have you had a good turnout so far?
We had, through Thursday of last week, I believe our number was 117. So not as good as a primary when there's a presidential, but the weather's not necessarily cooperated the last week and a half either, so,
Well, you look outside today, there was snow.
yeah.
We got a bunch of them started, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good, I'll just keep signing.
Yeah, actually,
We don't need more too.
We just need to.
Pick up sign.
Take one more, that'd be great.
Okay, again, anything else to come before the commissioners?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We will be meeting, at 1 o'clock for a work session. Everybody's invited. It'll be really lots of fun and thrills. But we're gonna be discussing the, jail, and how we can move ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lee? Oh, you know, it's Monday.
Oh, you're going to stay for your 11 o'clock drinking board meeting?
You look like it. Snow's gonna stay very long.